everybody, and welcome to the CrossFit Bangor podcast. I'm sitting with Coach James today, who has been coaching with us, or at least been CrossFitting with us since April of 2014. He's also an ER doc at St. Joseph's Hospital. Not St. Joseph's, St. Joseph Hospital. How's it going, James?
Good, thanks.
Awesome. So with everyone that I kind of have on the podcast, I like to start things off with how you found CrossFit, how all those things started. So take it away. How did it start?
So for me, I guess growing up, I was always kind of a mediocre to decent athlete. I played a bunch of sports. I did Little League and I played soccer and various things. And then when I got to college, I thought I'd keep doing that. And I tried out for the soccer team. And for the first time in my life, I didn't make the team. So I decided I was not, college soccer quality. But I still wanted to be athletic. And so I looked around for other things and I found some other sports that you didn't need to have a ton of experience with. And so I played rugby for a couple years in college. Really enjoyed that, but tore up both my knees and had surgery a couple of times. And so after that, I switched to rowing for the low impact aspect of it. And growing up on the coast of Maine, I'd done a little bit of rowing here and there. So switching over to rowing, I found a great sport that I really loved. And I only got to do about 1 year of it in college. And I wish I'd been doing it the whole time I was there. But it was something that I found that I had a little bit of skill at. I was a little short for a rower, but could get by at a small college and really had a great time with it. But then after college, I kind of fell off and I did some pickup sports here and there. I lived in Boston for a while and I rode for a little bit when I was there, intramural type stuff, but nothing that was really consistent. And so when I moved back to this area after college, med school, residency, all that, we moved back here in 2012. And at that point I was from residency and all that stuff. I hadn't been active in quite a while. I was pretty out of shape. And so kind of casting around looking for things to do. My wife and I played indoor soccer, which I enjoy, but I found that I was always pretty beat up after those games. And so when I was looking for something to do, I found CrossFit online, and I'd been reading about it for a little while and kind of curious about it. And then I saw there was a gym in Bangor, so I sent an email in and heard back from Tony at the time, who was setting up the on-ramps. And at that point, there was a bit of a wait list. So I think this was in the winter that I'd gotten in touch with him and finally got set up to get going in sometime around March or April of 2014. And so at that point, I had a rough idea of what I was getting into based on stuff I'd read on the internet. And a lot of it was very similar to workouts and stuff I'd done with rowing, although some of the things like the Olympic lifting was brand new to me, something I'd never done before. So I found that it was an environment I liked, a supportive group. I found that being back in almost a team setting, working out with other people, was much more beneficial for me in terms of consistency. Yeah. Before, when I'd had a gym membership and gone to the Y or the University Health Center, I might get on a kick where I'd go 3 or 4 days a week, and then a couple weeks would pass and I wouldn't go at all, and then I might go back, but it was pretty spotty. And having little kids especially made it tough to kind of commit that time to get in. But I found that once I started doing CrossFit, it was no longer trying to force myself to find the time, but that it was now a priority. And so whatever was fitting it in during the day, that was now one of the things I wanted to make sure I could do.
Right.
So I started out, like everyone else, started from scratch. And as I was learning things and moving forward, I found that I really enjoyed it. And also I liked the idea of being able to teach and coach. And with my small amount of rowing background in the rowing world, but for CrossFit, a decent rowing background, I found that was a kind of an area of specialty that I could share knowledge with people. And so through that, I decided that I wanted to progress and maybe start coaching. And so I took my level 1 course down in Massachusetts. I did a rowing seminar as well. And then a little bit after that, did the CrossFit weightlifting course, right. And started coaching here a couple of years ago. And so now I work as one of the fill-in coaches, kind of giving our main coaches a break every now and then, usually a few days a month. And I really get a lot of satisfaction out of coaching the members and getting to meet everyone that way. It's funny that a lot of the classes are pretty territorial or tribal. Mm-hmm. So there are some people who bounce around. And when I was here, just as a member, I tended to bounce around because my schedule's all over the place. But I find as a coach, there are people in the 5 a.m. that I would never have met otherwise because I wouldn't usually go to the 5 a.m. And likewise, some of the late afternoon classes. If I wasn't coaching, I probably wouldn't have met these people. But as a coach, you get to meet everyone, which is fantastic. And it's exciting. I think a lot of members here too find that when they have a day off or whatever, they drop into whatever their non-normal class is, they meet a whole bunch of new people. Mm-hmm. That's really great. It's really special. So it is fun to have your own group and tribe kind of at one particular class, but it's nice to know that in any class, you're kind of welcome as a member of the family.
Right. It kind of takes you out of your comfort zone when if you come every day at 4 p.m. then all of a sudden next thing you know you're at 6 a.m. or 8:30 because you had the day off and it feels like you're like the new kid again.
Whole different group of people. Yeah.
To kind of take it back just a little bit, I'm actually interested. So it sounds like you were pretty quick into getting into coaching. Did CrossFit change for you after your Massachusetts trip, after your level 1? Did you kind of look at CrossFit a little bit differently after coaching, and now have been coaching for a while now? Is it a little bit different for you now than it was then?
Yeah, for me, it's, I've always been a relatively enthusiastic person kind of about whatever I'm doing. And so starting out fresh with CrossFit, it was just fun. It was fun to get in here. It was fun to work out with other people. Even as miserable as you feel sometimes after the workouts, there's a deep sense of satisfaction. I remember the first official workout I did for CrossFit was Black Lung, which is the 21-15-9 rowing calories and burpees. And I think Tony probably had me do it because I had the rowing, so he was giving me a little nod there, but also maybe a little bit of a challenge to say something you think you like.
An initiation.
I'm going to make it horrible. Exactly. Yeah, which is just, it's an absolute burner. And I remember after that workout kind of staggering out to my car and sitting in the parking lot at the old space on Odland Road for about 15 minutes, just not sure, like, am I going to throw up? Do I need to take a nap?
We've all done that.
Am I going to make it home?
Yeah.
So, and then kind of collecting myself and finally getting home. So I think for me, initially that was it. It was just, these killer workouts and a great group of people to be with. But then once I started coaching, and part of that was going down and doing the course. And when you do the level 1 course, you really drink the Kool-Aid in terms of getting into some of the methodology and the thinking behind what we do. And you actually see that as much fun as it is to come in every day and there's a new workout on the board and let's do this, there's a lot of thought process behind what workouts we're doing, what movements were incorporated, the cycle through different weeks or months. And you start to see that, if I'm not coming once or twice a week, but I'm coming with some consistency, there's actually a big picture and a plan. And that became very satisfying as an athlete when I'd say, I feel like we haven't been doing, cleans in months. As I haven't gotten to them, but then we do cleans and all of a sudden it'd be 10, 20 pounds heavier than the last time you did it. So even without doing a specific movement, everything else you've been doing has kind of been building up and preparing you for that when you get back to it. Mm-hmm. So as an athlete, I found that satisfying, but then as a coach, I felt like I started to understand some of the reasoning behind that and get kind of a little look behind the curtain. And I think it's one of those things where obviously the CrossFit courses aren't cheap, but for anyone who has that interest, even if they are not someone who would think about wanting to coach, there's so much value in that course. I think especially out there online, you see there's a lot of CrossFit haters out there and a lot of slander about, I got to do this weekend course and now I can open a gym, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And that's true to a certain extent. It discounts the reading you do on your own, kind of the extensive history with the CrossFit Journal and the level 1 manual and all that other stuff that's there. There's a lot of supplemental education.
Right.
So I think of it like my medical school education. It's like, I might have only spent a month doing OBGYN during my residency, knowing that I might have to do that at some point in my training. But with all the reading and all the other practical stuff that I do, that knowledge is kind of cemented in there.
Exactly.
So for me, it was the same thing with the course.
Right. I mean, I can make a sandwich, but doesn't mean I should open a deli.
Right.
Exactly. The market's going to flush me out if my sandwich sucks.
Exactly. So I think that speaks to the quality in the gym, the quality of the coaches, and the product that we deliver. Is that, again, like you're saying, that there's competition and there's things to be said for creating a good product and bringing your members back.
Right. That's perfect. So perspective changed a little bit from member to coach. From a doctor's perspective, did the way you practice, the way you thought about maybe medicine change after starting CrossFit just in general back in 2014?
So for me, I think that I practice emergency medicine, so I see people with all sorts of different issues, men, women, kids, old people, everyone comes into the emergency department at some point. A lot of what I see and a lot of the people who are there on a regular basis are there with pretty complex chronic health problems. A lot of which are, if you attribute them to what we call the American lifestyle or whatever it is, a lot of them have to do with obesity or inactivity, smoking or other substance use, mental health issues. And I feel like for me, coming to the gym and seeing the people that I work with here, it's amazing to me, and it seems like such a no-brainer. The doctor's always going to tell you got to eat better, you got to get more exercise. And it's easy to take that knowledge in one ear and out the other ear and forget about it and say, but I don't feel good. I want you to fix what's wrong with me. And often that means I want you to put me on a medicine or I want you to send me to a therapist or something to kind of fix whatever this problem is. Or a lot of the time, it is as simple as saying, well, what do you do for exercise? How are you eating? Those sorts of things. And for people, it's not easy. And I can recognize that for a lot of people, a gym membership is expensive. Eating well, buying good, healthy foods isn't always cheap. And there are some ways to work around that. And sometimes it just takes the education. A lot of people don't know what resources are available to them or what options there might be in the community. But for me, I think a lot of the chronic disease that I see, it became very clear to me that if people focused a little more on what they spent their time doing, a lot of that stuff would go away. And you read CrossFit has done a very good job of promoting some of their success stories with people that, after 6 months of doing CrossFit, I was able to get off these medicines, or I was able to, I lost 60 pounds, whatever it is. This isn't just about, I need to lose weight, I need to look better. That's not what it's about. This is about health and life. And I think if you listen to Greg Glassman speak, the founder of CrossFit, a lot of what he says is about that. This is not about, building big muscles necessarily. It's great when you hit a PR. It's great when you can do something you couldn't do a week ago, but this is about preparing you for life and preparing you for longevity. If you can get up out of your chair on your own, that means you might not end up in a nursing home. Those are the kinds of things that, long-term predict good health and good outcomes for people. As we age, you see people in here of all ages doing CrossFit, doing functional movements. And again, we scale things appropriately so people can do things safely. But I feel confident that anyone who walks through those doors, we can provide a good workout for. And it's going to look very different from person to person, but it's going to be good no matter what.
Right. And I'm assuming that the courses too, like the level 1 course and all that, also changed your view on top of just being a member here. I'm sure those helped a lot too.
Definitely.
Has your view on health changed a little bit? You kind of talked about that previously on it's more than just the 6-pack abs. There's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes, but is there anything about health that might have changed since you walked through the doors back in?
I think for me personally, my health has improved significantly. There's still things I need to do better. I could eat better. I could lose a little bit of weight. Those things that I think all of us are kind of always working on. But for me personally, I see, my energy's better. Having a couple young kids at home, they can kind of run you ragged. But I find that being in here it's along with being a physical activity, this is a mental health activity as well.
Right.
So I think for a lot of people I see in here, again, a lot of what I see in the emergency department are people that are overwhelmed with whether it's anxiety or depression or things like that weigh people down and kind of make daily life challenging, make it hard to get up and go to the gym, hard to eat good food, get out and do your daily activities. It's amazing what you can get out of coming here and doing this and how it can totally change your perspective for a day or a week or longer. I find that when I miss the gym for a period of time, it gives your muscles some time to recover. So your body might feel a little bit better in the short term, but you definitely are aware that you're missing the gym. Like that little piece of what you do is not there. So this to me has become kind of part of a comprehensive health plan for me. Mm-hmm. And I think that for everyone going forward, I haven't been able to get to the point at work where I see people in the emergency department and can say, when they say, what do you think I should do about this? Especially for chronic problems. They say, I've had this pain in my knee or pain in my back for 6 years. I've seen specialists. I've gotten injections. I've done all this stuff. Nothing's getting better. My temptation is often to say, you should come down to CrossFit. Because I think that's the last thing. Yeah, exactly. That's the last thing that person is thinking about when they're there in the hospital with their pain. And I think it's important to acknowledge and recognize, I understand you're having this issue right now, and let's see what we can do to address this right now. But those conversations are very hard to have with someone where you're really getting kind of frank and earnest. And that's why in the emergency department, at least where they're meeting someone new for the first time, it's rarely the place to really have that conversation. I know a lot of primary care providers do a much better job with that. And we actually have many primary care providers, PAs, NPs, MDs here in the gym who do that with their patients and talk to them about things. You say, you know what, this has been going on for you for years, and it may seem totally counterintuitive, but I think what you need is something like this, a structured physical activity regimen. And the benefit of coming to a place like this is between the coach and the other members in the class, you have that structure, you have that motivation, you have a reason to keep coming back. So
right.
I think if you're not a naturally outgoing and enthusiastic person, those first couple months can be a little rough in terms of convincing yourself to come back every day. You might feel shy. You might feel like you're not sure what's going on. But I tell everyone, if you can push through those first couple of months, that first handful of classes, once you kind of find the groove, it's a night and day difference.
Yeah.
And then people just keep coming back.
On that note too, it's like a perfect segue. What I was going to ask you next is if you do have someone that you say that to, they actually take your advice, they walk in, what would your advice be for them? Obviously be confident, mm-hmm. keep going. The mm-hmm. first 3 months are hard, and everyone knows that, and all the coaches will say that. But what's advice that you would give your old self if you could go back and talk to James walking in that first day? Like maybe what would you do if you were in the passenger seat in the car after Black Lung? What would you say? And then maybe talk about what you would say to a patient that took your advice to heart and actually did it.
Yeah, I think for me, it was always a matter of, I feel like once I had kind of gotten that first taste, I knew I was coming back. Mm-hmm. For me, it was just a matter of saying, you're going to be sore tomorrow. You might want to take that day off. But, you actually find, and I find that once I started doing this, is that those days when you're the most sore, the best you're going to feel that day is if you come into the gym and get warm and get loose and kind of get moving again. So even that doesn't mean you need to go blow yourself out, and you might not even do the workout that day, but to come in and do something just to loosen yourself up, you're going to feel much better. Talking to someone who's never done this before, if I was talking to a patient or someone like that who's looking for something in their life like this, I think I tend to be very honest with people up front and say it's going to be hard initially, and it's not going to feel good initially. Like physically, it's not going to feel good. And mentally, you might feel a little discouraged or depressed. I think a lot of that depends on your mindset going into it. Some people say, you know what, I'm excited, whatever it brings. I don't care. I'm starting with the training bar. I'm going to stick with that for 6 months, whatever it takes. And then other people, the first day they get in here and they see someone squatting more than them, they're kind of like, I don't know if I'm into this. I'm going to go back to the other gym.
Right.
For me, I think it's, if you're the kind of person that buys in right away, you're not going to have any problem. The atmosphere is welcoming. The people are here to support you. No problem. If you're not that kind of person, I think the thing to say is to commit to something initially that you can kind of write down on paper for yourself. Whether you're starting with kind of a basic membership, you're starting saying, all right, the first 3 months, I'm going to go 3 times a week. And that's what it takes. And if knowing that if you miss a day, that's not the end of the world. Life happens. You can't make it to the gym, but not to use that one day missed as an excuse to say, well, I didn't go Wednesday, so I'm not going to go Friday. And then, weeks down the road, you haven't gone at all. I think it's that first time you plan to go to the gym and you miss it, getting back on the horse and going again, saying, all right, well, I didn't go today, so I'm going to go tomorrow. That kind of thing. That's the hardest thing for people. And again, until you find your community, until you find your tribe, whether it's your class or your group of friends or something like that, it can be a little hard to feel like you're coming in here by yourself every day and doing the workout. I think if you just remember that the rest of the group here, they're all doing the same thing with you and they're here to support you. So even if you don't know them yet, and they might be shy too, and maybe that's why they're not talking to you.
Yeah, they probably feel the exact same way.
Exactly. They feel the exact same way.
I get the same thing is like everyone feels like everyone's looking at them and judging them and the same, but if you actually could hear everyone's brain, most of the time it's either like, what am I going to eat after this? Or, or what do they think of me?
Right.
Am
I doing this
They're too busy thinking
Yeah.
about themselves, let alone they don't have time to think about you.
Exactly.
I think that's a great point. I love it. I like to end things, and you can take as much time as you want on this. It could be 1, 3, 5, 10. I don't care, but I'd love to hear what CrossFit has given you, and how you've changed in the last 3 or 4 years now.
So the changes that I've noticed the most are physical. I think in terms of strength and endurance and things like that I can do that I couldn't before. In terms of what CrossFit has given me, and I think this is what you'll hear from a lot of people, is the community, the people, the facility itself. We've been very involved with with the move and kind of moving to this new space and all that. Seeing this place grow over the last year, especially, it's really exploded, almost doubled in membership. For me, that's it. Coming in here, and even when I don't recognize a face or two in a class, if it's someone I haven't seen in a couple of weeks, that kind of thing, there's always a handful of members that I've been coming here with for a year, 2 years, whatever it is. So that community, I think, is irreplaceable, and it's something that even when you have I also have a membership at the fitness center at University of Maine because we take our kids there for the pool and stuff like that. It's a beautiful facility, tons of equipment, but I would never go there on my own without a specific purpose in mind. If I'm going there, I'm probably taking the kids to the pool or we're going to play basketball or something like that. But it just doesn't, there's nothing else there like the community to bring me in. Right. So it doesn't matter how beautiful and shiny and expansive the space is if you don't have another reason to go there. And so for me, that's what this place brings. The people, the place, the atmosphere.
That's perfect. And you don't have to be a coach to appreciate that.
100%.
Every member, and in the terms of like our competitions, like we have one coming up on the 30th, the Brawl. We do all kinds of charity events. You don't have to be a coach to take advantage of the community that can come here.
And I think that's one of the most exciting things for me when I see the people that have been coming for a couple of months, 2-3 months maybe, and then the first time they feel like they're like, yeah, today I just couldn't make it to any of the classes, so I came in at 1:30 by myself and I did a workout by myself. And to me, that shows that like something is clicked and they're in, because they might come in and say like, I'm not really sure what I should do with this time, and there's always a coach around, so that's what we're here for. But what do you think I should do? Or I want to do the workout today. What have you been doing for warm up? That kind of thing. But the first time you see someone go out of their way to come in and do it on their own, even without that community, that says, all right, well, they've crossed over. They're, they're in now. And then, because they're going to come to the classes where their friends are there and everything else. But if they're also saying, I just wanted to go to the gym today, and the only time that worked, I came for myself, that's a big step.
Oh, awesome. Well, thanks for sitting it down for me, James. Hey, thanks everybody for listening, and special thanks to Coach James for sharing his story with us. If you have something that you want us to talk about on the podcast, email me at zach@crossfitbangor.com or just let us know at the gym. We'll be trying to bust these podcasts out as much as we can, and we hope you enjoy listening. See you at the gym.